Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible, and we're going to be previewing every brand new streaming horror release for the week of August 11th. And we'll be catching up on a few and getting into my trailer reactions. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with the movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. I also want to touch on the availability of these titles, as I have personally went to each one of the services and verified that these movies are available. And if you are having trouble seeing them, there is probably one of two reasons. One, you might be region locked. And the other reason is that if you are using any of the alternative media sites or any of the free stuff, a lot of these movies just came out yesterday, so they really won't show up on those sites for a couple days. I've also went through and taken the courtesy of front-loading this video so that we get as many of the kind of free releases and streaming service releases at the beginning of the video. But just know that once we get into kind of the Apple TV and Amazon Prime, that you're really looking for all of the movies to be for rent from there. And lastly, this is just a preview, and these are just my trailer reactions. As always, I've added chapters and timestamps in the description, so if you don't like the trailer reactions or you just want to move on to the next movie, you're always free to do so. And I want you guys to think of this new release preview video as more of a choose your own adventure. But if you did want some reviews and recommendations, then I suggest you watch my new movie review series, the Best I've Watched Lately series, or any of my movie list series. This here is just a little something for the diehards like me that are always looking for something new to watch. And with that, let's get right to it. So the first movie we're going to take a look at this week is a straight horror named Fear Cabin, The Last Weekend of Summer. And this movie is available for free on Fossum TV. Six friends' end of summer cabin party turns deadly when they discover they're not alone in the woods. Their weekend of drinking and fun becomes a fight for survival with an unwanted visitor. It is directed by Brian Cranston. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Fear Cabin, this one looks like a pretty standard supernatural horror. It doesn't seem too bad on the creeps and scares front, and I really like what they're doing with some of the entity here. It had a few interesting touches for sure. Now, production-wise, the cinematography and acting felt just a little bit middle of the road. Like, it was nothing terrible, but it was nothing that really stood out either. But it does look like it will have that kind of Circle of Friends vibe, which does add some good group dynamics and could provide something entertaining. Now, unfortunately for this one, there's not just a ton to say based off the trailer. And honestly, it does look like a pretty just straightforward haunted house flick. And while it doesn't look like anything bad by any means, it was nothing that just really jumped out and grabbed me either. So for now, Fear Cabin looks okay, but just a little bit run-of-the-mill, so I think it's going to get a little bit of a lower spot on my watch list.
This place again?
Not far, just outside the city.
I only have two rules here. Clean up after yourselves, and you don't go near the gravestones.
What gravestones?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a drama horror mystery named Descendent. And this movie is available on Fandango at Home and Amazon Prime.
This is new for you?
A troubled LA school guard haunted by family tragedy experiences strange visions after a mysterious light appears in the sky. As his wife's due date approaches, he races to face his demons before his growing obsession consumes him. It is directed by Peter Salella. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Descendant, this one looks like a decent sci-fi mystery. And I thought they did a good job of setting up a story where the main character is just slowly unraveling after some kind of weird, strange, alien-like event. It's got an eerie, psychological decline kind of feel, which always works well with this kind of setup. Now, that being said, it doesn't look like we're going to get much in the way of creeps and scares, and I don't think it's going to be really heavy on the gore either. Now, when it comes to the premise, I think that this movie actually looks all right because I like these kind of mysterious, alien, almost fire in the sky type movies. And I usually like the kind of mystery that these stories build, but I think we're just going to have to kind of wait and see how this one plays out. Now, Descendant might not be the bloodiest or scariest flick, but if you're in the mood for that kind of UFO alien slow burn, I think there's something here. And I think it's something that could definitely scratch that itch, so I think this one's going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
What is the last thing that you remember?
Have you ever worked with anyone who's been abducted?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a crime horror named No Tears in Hell. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime. In Alaska's winter darkness, a mother and son transform their house into a nightmare, drawing people in for abuse and cannibalism. It is directed by Michael Casey. Okay, so after watching the trailer for No Tears in Hell, this one looks like a decent serial killer crime horror. Now, the first thing that really stood out for me in this one was the premise, because I really like a good kind of serial killer flick, and I think the angle of that mother-son duo is just a solid twist. And if you add in what looks like a healthy dose of gore, along with some truly pretty degenerate acts, I think we have a movie that could maybe scratch that itch of just that raw, disturbing kind of edge that I'm always looking for. Now, if I had to give one drawback to the film, it's that some of the line deliveries that you hear in the trailer, they just came off just a tiny bit wooden and cheesy. And while it wasn't anything that was too bad, it definitely was enough there to notice. But still, No Tears in Hell looks gritty and intense, and if it could really lean into some of that kind of disturbing, uncomfortable territory, then I think we could have a strong entry here. So I think this one's going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
The days and nights have started to bleed together, and I can feel my bloodlust becoming more insatiable, more and more unstable. But yet, I'm not worried, because I have Mother. Dinner's ready. I did it again.
You drag him to the bathroom, and I'll take care of the rest, baby.
Mothers always take care of their children.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a horror thriller named Diced Reloaded. And this movie is available on Amazon Prime. When notorious killer Benny escapes an asylum on Halloween night, his scarecrow-masked rampage turns 1980 Seattle into a blood-soaked nightmare with one young woman in his sights. It is directed by Jeremy Rudd. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Diced Reloaded, this one looks like a decent, almost classic slasher. Now, being a child of the 80s and 90s, I really dug that 80s aesthetic and the high school circle of friends vibe. Growing up, I really was a fan of some of those high school whodunit slashers like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, so I think that this one does a really good job of kind of hitting a nice nostalgic note. Now, the trailer didn't really show us much gore, and when I went to kind of look at the film's rating, it wasn't rated, but they did say that it had a lot of kind of bad language and a lot of gore in the film, so I'm hoping that it really leans into that. A movie like this really needs to go all in on kind of the kill variety, the blood, and the raunch to just really stand out. Now, when it comes to the premise of this film, I think it's really kind of run-of-the-mill on the surface, so I think it's going to really live and die on how hard it goes on those more intense elements. The only real drawback that I can see with this one is that it's just another slasher, so it's not exactly reinventing the wheel, so if you're not really into it or into the genre, I don't think this film is going to change your mind. That being said, I think Diced has a few things going for it, and if it leans into that gore and the old school charm, I think we could have a good fun ride on our hands. And I'm willing to give it a chance because, like I said, I think it looks like it's got some good potential, so I think it's going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
We've released the wrong patient. He's a deranged serial killer. He believes he's a kid, and he finds joy in killing. Diced up his parents' body parts and played with them like they were pieces in a board game.
Get a load of the guy that just walked in.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a horror mystery thriller named The Ruse. And this movie is available on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. An in-home caregiver fears for her life after being assigned to a mysterious elderly patient in a remote seaside home. It is directed by Stephen Mena. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Muse, this one looks like an alright thriller. Now, right off the bat, I really liked the way that they were trying to attempt at least to give us some good creeps and scares, but I really thought they would have did a little bit more work kind of just building up this mystery. Now, right off the bat, I didn't mind the premise, and I did think there was something intriguing about the mystery they did end up building on exactly what happened to the prior caregivers. And I did feel that that part did give the story a little bit of an eerie hook, but I really didn't feel a sense of imminent fear or tension from this unseen protagonist, which is one of the reasons that the trailer felt a little bit flat in the suspense department. Also, from what I picked up in the trailer, I don't think the film is going to offer much in the way of gore either. The tone definitely feels more subdued and psychological than brutal. Now, that being said, I did think that the Ruse felt competent, and if they do a good job of kind of fleshing out the mystery, it could be decent. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of a chance on this one and give The Muse a regular spot on my watch list.
They tell you?
So she told me what?
The house is haunted.
Olivia? Did he wake you?
What?
Albert. I told him to leave you alone.
He's here now?
He's in the hall watching us.
So now we're going to play a little bit of catch up, and I know that some of these movies are a couple weeks old because I did miss a couple weeks, but like I've said in previous videos, I do want to keep loyal fans of this series just caught up as much as possible. So the next film we're going to look at is an action fantasy horror named The Death of Snow White. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime. Pursued by her stepmother for eternal beauty, Snow White flees into the terrifying forest and aligns with 7 bloodthirsty dwarves, cold-blooded assassins with a knack for brutal killings. Her spirit is tested in this grim fairy tale. It is directed by Jason Brooks. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Death of Snow White, this one looks like an interesting kind of fairy tale action horror. Now, like a lot of these kind of reimagined license-free properties, they've managed to take this story and really flip it on its head by giving us an injection of these like kicking ass warrior dwarfs and a heavy dose of action. Now, I wouldn't really come to this one for the creeps and scares, but it does look really bloody, and I always appreciate that in an action horror. Now, after watching the trailer, I think it's really clear why they've listed horror as the third subgenre here, because it feels like the only really true horror that you're getting out of this film is from the gore. Now, one thing I did like about the trailer is that they are trying to do something different, and the story does seem cool, but the B-movie sheen kind of laying over the top of the whole movie was just a little bit hard to ignore. Some of the scenes just looked a little bit off, and the way that they kind of just were shot, it looks like the movie may be a little bit hard to take seriously at times. Now, this feels like one of those movies that you really might have to be in the right mood to watch, but I feel like if the violence and gore don't do a good job of holding this movie together, I don't think there's really much else there. So for that reason, even though I'm interested on a unique take, I think The Death of Snow White is going to get a lower spot on my watch list.
Mirror hanging on the wall. I am the fairest of them all.
Oh yes, you are fair, it is true. But we both know Snow White is more beautiful than you.
What are the huntsmen doing out here?
She will not survive the Dark Forest alone, and we cannot risk sending my men out.
Find her now!
Alright, next movie we're going to take a look at is an action-adventure horror named Blood Brothers Life Harvest. And this movie is available on Prime Video.
I can feel everything inside of me, everything that's happening.
Brothers Enoch and Aaron fight to protect their family as a deadly rabies virus spreads across the entire world. When one of them is bitten by a zombie, they must ask themselves the ultimate question: is blood thicker than water? It is directed by Britt and Diana Sellers. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Blood Brothers Life Harvest, this one looks like a bit of a meh virus zombie horror. And it's never really good when the first thing that stood out to me was that this was clearly a B movie that's kind of missing a little bit of polish. Now, like most zombie flicks, I didn't really get much in the way of creeps and scares, but one thing that was good is it really did look bloody, and that's always good in my books. Now, I've always liked the basic premise here, as I do like kind of outbreak virus stories, and when you mix it with this kind of brothers relationship where one of them gets bit, it could add just an interesting kind of angle to the movie that does give the plot just a little bit more weight. Now, normally, I really am into these kind of heavier emotional angles, but I've got to be honest, there's a little bit of a red flag, because with the kind of B-movie level acting that you see in the film, I just hope that the emotion actually lands. Now, overall, Blood Brothers, even though it did have that kind of interesting hook, it wasn't really anything that like gripped me properly. So I think this one's going to get a lower spot on my watch list. Alright guys, last movie we're going to take a look at this week is an action-adventure horror named Jurassic Reborn. And this movie is available on Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime. When cutting-edge research leads to the creation of living dinosaurs, scientists on a secluded island must risk their lives and confront the now growing creatures to prevent the animals from escaping and attacking the mainland. It is directed by Marcel Walls. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Jurassic Reborn, this one looks like an extremely subpar kind of action dinosaur horror. And right from jump, this is a Jurassic Park ripoff that doesn't offer any original ideas, and I doubt that it's even going to offer up any real creeps and scares. Another downside that I saw with the film is that it's just kind of chock full of these awful kind of CGI effects. And while I'm sure this film's going to try to land a jump scare or two, I just can't see any of it being effective. And it's just like everything from the acting to the dialogue, it really just felt painfully campy. And even though there's a Baldwin in the cast, his presence just doesn't do this movie any favors. And a little bit, it actually feels like it kind of makes the movie feel a little bit lower budget. Also, there's another fact that this movie really does want to be taken seriously, which does make the kind of bad effects and wooden kind of acting and delivery hit that much harder. And while it really gives like kind of those bad CGI movies like Sharknado vibes, at least Sharknado knows what it is and it doesn't take itself too seriously, where this film really is trying to be a legit action movie and it doesn't do it any favors at all. Honestly, you guys know I don't like to disparage other people's creative work, but I just don't see anything promising here. So for me, unfortunately, I think Jurassic Reborn is going to get skipped off my watch list.
We actually bring back dinosaurs? Just think of the possibilities.
Here we go.
Oh! Is that supposed to happen? If they break containment, the entire island is at risk.
Raptors are growing faster than we projected.
We head to the port. Stick together.
Well guys, that's it for me for another preview video of the newest horror movies to watch and stream. I hope you like this content, and if you did find a couple of gems for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. Now, if I had to make a couple of picks this week, the first pick I would probably make is Diced Reloaded. I know it's like a very run-of-the-mill kind of 80s slasher, but again, that kind of spoke to me, you know? I'm a nostalgic guy. I love that 80s aesthetic. It brings me right back to the movie days of like high school whodunit slashers, which is always good. And I can only hope that they give us a good variety of kills. I heard some raunchy stuff right in the trailer, so that is promising, and I hope it just gives us like a bunch of good gore. I thought that the movie looked like it had a decent budget, nothing huge budget, but definitely passable, so that's going to be my first pick of the week. And for my second pick of the week, I'm going to pick No Tears in Hell. I just think that the movie looks good. I love serial killer movies. It looks like it has a lot of kind of disturbing, dark acts throughout the movie. Just some really kind of dark stuff. I love that kind of angle where it's the son and mother duo. You just don't see that often. And it looks like the mother is the rawer one. Like there's a part where she's the one who's like tasked with cutting up the bodies. And then he just looks like he's like a weird stalker type. So there could be some good kind of disturbing stuff there. So that's going to be my second pick of the week. Well, guys, that's it for me for real this time, as I have got a ton of movies to watch. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you. I really appreciate all of your guys' support, as we almost have reached 6,000 subscribers. I hope you guys have been good and taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.